Hi everyone, it's Christine Kopr with Sotheby's Realty in Vancouver, BC with your December market update. We're going to take a look at November sales numbers as well as the current news in the marketplace. Let's get started. Okay, every month, as you know, I like to take a look at our overview for the year as well as what's been happening in the current market and particularly November. So we're going to start off with the sales. November had 1,614 sales. That was down 15% month over month from the month of October and down 53% year over year. So sales were down 53% over this time last year, as well as down 37% below the 10-year average. So a couple of things to keep in mind. One, sales have started slowing down comparatively to October. For sure, that's a pretty substantial slowdown. Year over year, 53% is a huge slowdown in terms of sales. However, please keep in mind that 2021 was the highest selling year on record and the activity was absolutely incredible. You are comparing off of a very, very high standard, which is not your average. However, we do have the 10-year average, which is a great way to put these sales numbers into perspective. And for the month of this October, our sales at 1614 are 37% the 10-year average. So there is a pretty substantial slowdown in sales on average over the 10-year history of our board. So things are really starting to slow down. Now, keep in mind, the end of the year is typically slow. We are in winter. A lot of people take time off now, especially with Christmas parties, getting ready for the holidays and into January, and things start to pick up again in the spring. But just generally speaking, sales are down 37% under the 10-year average, and that is something that you really need to keep in mind, particularly if you're selling today. Now, new listings, these are the amount of listings that are coming on the market or came on the market in November. We had 3,055 new homes listed on the MLS. That's down 25% from October and down 23% from the previous November, so year over year. So not a lot of new listings coming on the market. This is very typical for the end of the year. However, year over year, it is a lot lower than what we have seen in the past. And again, last year, while we had substantial high sales, we also didn't have as many, there were listings obviously coming on, but selling through very quickly. One of the most important numbers that I like to look at is the total active listings right now in this low sales environment. So we have low transactions or sales happening in this environment. And one of the things we need to keep an eye out on is the amount of inventory available, because if it starts to accumulate with the low volume of sales, as we get more and more inventory, that is going to put downward pressure on prices. And coming up in one of my slides is I'm going to put our current active listings into perspective of what we have seen in the past, which touched on it last month, but at least we'll put it in perspective of what's happening in today's environment, what happened during the global financial crisis in 2008, 2009, how do we differ and what are we looking out for? So 9,179 available homes on our MLS at the end of November. That's down 7% from the month before, from October, which is great, starting to tighten up, and also down 29% year over year. So it's one of the things that's happening in this marketplace is we still have very low inventory comparatively. My favorite number is month of inventory. It is the very quick way to help you understand what's happening in the marketplace. Where is demand and supply sitting? Months of inventory, the quick rule is 4 months and below is a seller's market. There's just not enough inventory to deal with the amount of sales activity. And 6 months and above is considered a buyer's market. There's more inventory than there is demand. And as that accumulates, it creates downward pressure on pricing. So 4 months and below, seller's market. 6 months and above is a buyer's market. We're sitting at 5.7 months of inventory. We've been trending in this direction. You can see we hit 5.9 months of inventory. So basically 6 months of inventory earlier this year. And we've been trending in that direction, and it's already having an effect on prices. You can see below, this is the benchmark below. And if it's in red, it means that there was a price decrease from the month before. And if it's in yellow, then there was a price increase the month before. So before we jump into benchmark, just quickly to finish up months of inventory, we're sitting at 5.7 months of inventory. That's up 10% month over month and up 171% from this time last year. So we were sitting around 2 point something last year. Now we're almost sitting at a buyer's market. So this is very quickly a fast way to see what's happening in the marketplace. And remember, we're looking at the entire border Greater Vancouver, which spans from Whistler to Maple Ridge, brand new property, resale property, houses, condos, luxury, and even leasehold. So this is all combined in here. And remember, this is our quick look to understand what's happening in our market. We have to drill down into your particular product if you're a seller or a buyer to really understand what's happening in your market. So I invite you to contact me if you want to learn more about this for your particular marketplace. Now, benchmark price, we're sitting at 1.132 at the end of November. That's down 1.5% from the month before. And for the first time, we are clocking in a decrease in the benchmark price year over year. So we've basically been giving up all the gains that were made in the last year in terms of the benchmark price. And that's reflected right here. We've actually lost 10% in the last 6 months since April, which was the peak of the market for 2022. Okay, here we're going to drill down into product type. So detached homes, again, for the real estate board of Greater Vancouver, sales volumes down 51% year over year. So again, a substantial decrease against one of the highest selling records years on record. Your benchmark price, 1.856. The peak in April was 2.139%. Month over month change from October, we're down 1.9%. Year over year, we're down 1.7%, and we've lost 13.2% in the last 6 months or since the peak. Attached townhomes, sales volumes are down 54%. Your benchmark price is $1,027,000. Benchmark at the peak was 1.150, again, about March or April. And the percentage decrease month over month from last month is down 1.5%, down 2.7 year over year, and down 10.7% since the peak. Attached condos, sales are down 54%. Your benchmark price is sitting at $720, coming off from the peak earlier this year at $844,700. The percent change month over month is just a decrease of 0.9%, so almost 1%. Year over year, you're still up 3.5% and down 14.7% from the peak. So as you can see, if you're thinking about entering this marketplace, you now have the opportunity to potentially enter the marketplace on last year's numbers. As a buyer, the froth, so to speak, has basically been eliminated out of the marketplace. We're seeing buyers able to make offers with subjects and really have the opportunity to negotiate some really good deals. Coming in on the last slide here, just wanted to point out, again, we were talking about inventory. And here's the thing, if you're a buyer, you have the opportunity to negotiate and get a good value for the properties. However, we're not in a marketplace where there's desperation. There might be, one or two or very few situations so far where sellers are in a position where they have to sell a property. We haven't seen too much of that yet. And we're also not in a situation where there is a ton of pressure. If you take a look at this slide, this is our total inventory for the real estate board of Greater Vancouver. We are currently sitting in the 9,000s for active listings. This is a historical low on average. If you go back to 2008, 2009, and the global financial crisis, you can see that there was a ton more inventory on the market, which really drove down prices. It is something we have to look out for. It is something that could potentially accumulate and arise in the future. So that's something to think about. However, one of the interesting things that has recently occurred was our latest interest rate increase. And I just want to share this screen with you here. So the Bank of Canada increased interest rates last week by 0.5%, with the prime rate sitting at 4.25 and fixed rate interest rates on mortgages in the high 5s up to 6s. And one of the things that the Bank of Canada did mention is they might start to slow it down, i.e., they may not make any more interest rate increases and hold. We shall see, because inflation is still persistent, but they're starting to see downward pressure on some of the more local interest rate sensitive industries. And this might be the signal for them to pan things out. So if anything changes and eventually we start to see some interest rate increases, and I'm not suggesting that we're going to see that soon, but if sometime next year we start to get any kind of feel of that change in the Bank of Canada's outlook, then the psychology of the market will change. So for anybody that is thinking about getting into the marketplace, you can never time a bottom and you never know exactly where things are going to be. It is an excellent time where you're not competing for properties. Values are holding fairly well, despite the fact that we've had some decreases in most recent months. Values have been holding well in Vancouver, and they have very well over the long term. If you're a seller, you really need to take all of these pieces of information into consideration to understand the new environment for buyers entering the marketplace as well. Today, we actually had an interest rate increase as well from the Fed. That's another one that's popped up here. You can see that was announced today. They too toned it down from 0.75% to a 50% interest rate increase. So we're starting to hear a little bit of a slowdown tone for the interest rate increases. I'm not anticipating there being a decrease in interest rate anytime soon. However, probably holding steady for a while for the Bank of Canada and the Fed to figure out what's happening in the marketplace. We still have buyers out there. It's incredible. In the last couple of weeks, we started to see a lot more activity on some of our listings, and we also sold a listing recently. So if you are thinking about buying, make sure you reach out to us so we can help guide you and really drill down into your marketplace. If you are thinking of buying, make sure you reach out to us so we can walk you through the process and we can start getting you educated on the market today. And if you're considering selling, make sure you contact us. We'd love the opportunity to help you understand today's selling environment and understanding what it takes to be successful in today's market. I'm Christine with Sotheby's Realty in Vancouver. I look forward to connecting with you and wishing you all the best for the holidays and a happy new year.